Rain poured down in sheets as Mark Jenkins sprinted toward the sleek black Tesla, his daughter's pink backpack clutched against his chest to shield it from the downpour. Soaked to the bone and running late for Emma's ballet recital, he yanked open the passenger door and collapsed into the leather seat with a grateful sigh. "Thank God you're here. Ballet studio on 5th and Main, please. We're already running late and my daughter will kill me if I miss her solo," he said breathlessly, wiping rainwater from his face. Only then did he notice the stunned expression of the woman behind the wheel. She wasn't wearing the standard Uber driver's attire but rather an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, and a pair of designer glasses framed her striking green eyes. "I think there's been a mistake," she said, her voice carrying the crisp authority of someone used to being in charge. "If you're enjoying this story of an unexpected encounter that changes two lives forever, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more heartwarming content like this. Now, let's continue with our tale of mistaken identity and unexpected romance." Mark's face flushed with embarrassment as realization dawned. "Oh my God. You're not my Uber." "No," she replied, the corner of her mouth twitching with amusement. "I'm Alexandra Chen. And this is my personal vehicle." Mark fumbled for the door handle, mortified. "I am so sorry. The app said the car would be here, and yours looks exactly like the one in the picture. I'll just..." A crack of thunder shook the air, and the rain intensified. Alexandra glanced at her watch, then at Mark's desperate expression. Something in her usually guarded heart softened. "Ballet studio on 5th and Main, you said?" Mark blinked in surprise. "Yes, but I couldn't possibly." "Put on your seatbelt," she instructed, already pulling away from the curb. "I was just leaving the office anyway." That rainy evening marked the beginning of a journey neither of them could have anticipated, a journey that would challenge everything Alexandra thought she knew about success and everything Mark believed about second chances. Mark Jenkins hadn't planned on being a single father. At 34, he'd imagined a different life than the one he now led, juggling his job as a high school English teacher with raising his 8-year-old daughter Emma. 3 years ago, his wife Caitlin had walked out, leaving behind a note explaining she wasn't cut out for family life. The divorce papers had arrived 2 weeks later. Since then, Mark had poured everything into being both mother and father to Emma, determined that she would never feel the absence in her life. His days were a carefully orchestrated ballet of their own, morning routines, school drop-offs, lesson planning during prep periods, after-school activities, homework help, bedtime stories, and late nights grading papers after Emma was asleep. Dating wasn't even on his radar. How could it be, when he barely had time to breathe? Alexandra Chen had built her tech empire from the ground up. At 36, she was the founder and CEO of InnovateX, a company valued at over $3 billion. Business magazines regularly featured her on their covers, praising her visionary leadership and ruthless efficiency. What those glossy profiles failed to mention was how lonely success could be. Alexandra's schedule was managed down to the minute by her executive assistant. Her penthouse apartment, though architecturally stunning, felt more like a hotel than a home. Her last relationship had ended 2 years ago when her then-boyfriend had presented her with an ultimatum, him or the company. It hadn't even been a choice. She told herself she preferred it this way, unencumbered, focused, free to make decisions without considering anyone else's needs or feelings. But on nights when the office emptied and she remained alone with the city lights spread out below her window, Alexandra sometimes wondered what she was working so hard to achieve. As Alexandra navigated through the rain-slicked streets, she found herself stealing glances at the stranger beside her. He was handsome in an approachable way, warm brown eyes, slightly rumpled hair that curled at the edges from the rain, a day's worth of stubble on his jaw. His clothes were modest but neat, khaki pants, a blue button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and worn leather shoes. Nothing like the polished executives and entrepreneurs who typically occupied her world. "I really can't thank you enough for this," Mark said, checking his watch anxiously. Emma's been practicing her solo for months. She's playing a snowflake in The Nutcracker. Emma is your daughter? Alexandra asked, surprising herself with her interest. Mark's face transformed with a smile that reached all the way to his eyes. Yeah. She's 8 going on 30. Too smart for her own good and completely ballet-obsessed at the moment. And her mother? Alexandra ventured, then immediately regretted the intrusion. I'm sorry, that's none of my business. No, it's fine, Mark assured her. It's just me and Emma now. Has been for 3 years. Alexandra nodded, unsure why this information affected her so strongly. That must be challenging. Mark shrugged. Some days are harder than others. But Emma makes it all worthwhile. He glanced at her, curiosity evident in his expression. What about you? Do you always rescue desperate strangers who invade your car? Alexandra laughed, the sound surprising her. When was the last time she'd genuinely laughed? First time, actually. I usually have my driver, but I gave him the night off. Thought I'd enjoy the rare opportunity to drive myself home. And instead, you got hijacked by a frantic dad, Mark said with a self-deprecating smile. A welcome deviation from my usual routine, Alexandra replied, surprised to find she meant it. They pulled up to the ballet studio just as Mark's phone pinged with another notification. He checked it and groaned. My actual Uber driver cancelled because of the weather. Alexandra made a split-second decision. I can wait, if you'd like. Drive you both home afterward. Mark stared at her, clearly taken aback by the offer. You don't even know us. I know you're a father who ran through a thunderstorm to make it to his daughter's recital, Alexandra said. That tells me enough. Inside the studio, Mark slipped into a seat in the back row just as the lights dimmed. On stage, a group of young girls in white tutus twirled to Tchaikovsky's familiar melody. He scanned the dancers until he spotted Emma, her face a mask of concentration as she executed her steps with precision. He was so focused on his daughter that he didn't notice Alexandra sliding into the seat beside him until she whispered, "Which one is Emma?" Third from the left, he whispered back, unable to keep the pride from his voice. The one who's counting the beats under her breath. Alexandra watched the serious-faced little girl, noting her determined expression and the careful way she positioned her arms. She's very good. She works incredibly hard, Mark said. Gets that from her mother, I think. I never had that kind of discipline. When Emma's solo came, Mark held his breath. His daughter moved across the stage with a grace that belied her years, her face serene as she danced. When she finished, he was the first to his feet, applauding wildly. Beside him, Alexandra stood as well, clapping with genuine appreciation. After the performance, Emma ran to her father, still in her costume and makeup. Daddy! Did you see? I didn't mess up the turn sequence. Mark scooped her up, tutu and all. You were perfect, snowflake. The best dancer on that stage. Emma beamed, then noticed Alexandra standing a few steps away. Her smile faltered, replaced by curiosity. Who are you? Emma, Mark admonished gently. This is Ms. Chen. She very kindly gave me a ride when my Uber cancelled, or I might have missed your performance. Alexandra stepped forward, extending her hand formally as if Emma were an adult. You can call me Alex. Your dancing was beautiful. Emma shook her hand solemnly. Thank you for bringing my dad. He always gets nervous about being late. I've offered to drive you both home, Alexandra explained. If that's all right with you. Emma studied her with the frank assessment only children can get away with. What kind of car do you have? Emma, Mark warned. A Tesla Model S, Alexandra answered, amused. Emma's eyes widened. The one that can drive itself? Can we use that feature? Please. Mark looked mortified, but Alexandra laughed. Maybe for part of the journey. As they walked to the car, Emma chattering excitedly about her performance, Alexandra felt a strange sensation in her chest. It took her a moment to identify it as contentment, simple, uncomplicated happiness. How long had it been since she'd experienced that? The drive to Mark and Emma's modest townhouse in a middle-class neighborhood took about 20 minutes. Emma peppered Alexandra with questions the entire way, about her job, her car, whether she'd ever taken ballet lessons, she had, briefly, as a child, and if she lived in a mansion. Alexandra diplomatically described her penthouse as an apartment with a nice view. When they arrived, the rain had finally stopped. Mark turned to thank Alexandra, but Emma spoke first. "Would you like to come in for hot chocolate? Daddy makes the best hot chocolate in the world. With real chocolate, not powder." Mark looked embarrassed. "Emma, I'm sure Ms. Chen has other plans." Alexandra corrected him. "And actually, I don't." The realization struck her as both true and somewhat sad. It was Friday night, and she had nothing waiting for her except a stack of reports and an empty apartment. "Then you should definitely have hot chocolate," Emma declared with the absolute certainty of childhood. And so Alexandra Chen, whose net worth exceeded 9 figures and who regularly dined at Michelin-starred restaurants, found herself sitting at a scratched kitchen table in a modest townhouse, drinking hot chocolate made by a high school English teacher while his daughter, still in her ballet costume, recounted every detail of her performance. The townhouse was small but undeniably a home. Books filled every available shelf, family photos lined the walls, and Emma's artwork was proudly displayed on the refrigerator. A worn leather couch dominated the living room, flanked by reading lamps and more stacks of books. It was cluttered, lived in, warm in a way Alexandra's designer-decorated penthouse had never been. "So what exactly do you do, Alex?" Mark asked as he refilled her mug. "You mentioned leaving the office earlier." Alexandra hesitated. In her experience, revealing her identity as the CEO of InnovateX tended to change how people interacted with her. They either became intimidated or saw her as a potential resource to exploit. She enjoyed the way Mark treated her, like a normal person, not a walking business opportunity. "I work in tech," she said vaguely. "Software development." "She has a Tesla that drives itself, Daddy," Emma reminded him, as if this explained everything about Alexandra's career. Mark smiled. "Yes, I remember. That's pretty impressive. What about you?" Alexandra asked. "Besides being Emma's chauffeur and hot chocolate chef, I teach English at Westlake High. Mostly juniors and seniors." "He writes books too," Emma added proudly. "But they haven't been published yet." Mark winced. "Thanks for the reminder, kiddo." Alexandra's interest was piqued. "What kind of books?" "Nothing special. Just some young adult fiction. A fantasy series." He shrugged self-consciously. "It's more of a hobby than anything else." "Daddy's being modest," Emma informed Alexandra. "His books are amazing. They're about a girl who discovers she can talk to books and the characters can come to life, but only she can see them." "That sounds fascinating," Alexandra said sincerely. "I'd love to read them sometime." Mark looked surprised, then pleased. "Maybe someday, if I ever get past the rejection letters." Emma yawned widely, and Mark checked his watch. "Bath time and bed for you, young prima ballerina. It's already past your bedtime." "But Alex just got here," Emma protested. "And Alex probably needs to get home," Mark said gently. "Say thank you and good night." Emma slid off her chair and, to Alexandra's surprise, gave her a hug. "Thank you for bringing my dad and for watching me dance and for coming for hot chocolate." Alexandra awkwardly patted the girl's back, unaccustomed to such uninhibited affection. "You're welcome, Emma. You danced beautifully tonight." After Emma reluctantly went upstairs, Mark walked Alexandra to the door. I can't thank you enough for everything tonight. You really saved the day. It was my pleasure, Alexandra said, surprised to find she meant it completely. Emma is wonderful. She's the best thing in my life, Mark said simply. Standing in the doorway, Alexandra felt strangely reluctant to leave. The evening had been so unexpected, so different from her usual carefully scheduled existence. She'd felt more relaxed in these few hours than she had in years. Would you? She began, then hesitated, uncharacteristically uncertain. Alexandra Chen, who confidently negotiated multi-million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, was suddenly nervous about asking a high school teacher a simple question. Mark waited, his expression open and curious. Would you and Emma like to have dinner sometime? She finally asked. As a thank you for the hot chocolate. Mark looked surprised, then pleased. We'd like that. Though I'm pretty sure I'm the one who should be thanking you. Alexandra smiled. Let's call it even, then. They exchanged phone numbers, and Alexandra walked back to her car feeling lighter than she had in years. As she drove away, she glanced back at the modest townhouse with its warm yellow porch light and found herself already looking forward to seeing it again. What Alexandra couldn't know, was that this chance encounter would change the course of her carefully planned life in ways she could never have anticipated. The following Monday, Alexandra sat in her corner office on the 42nd floor of the InnovateX headquarters, trying to focus on the quarterly projections her CFO had just presented. Normally, she would be fully engaged, asking incisive questions and identifying potential issues before they arose. Today, however, her mind kept drifting to a pair of warm brown eyes and a little girl in a snowflake costume. Alexandra? Your thoughts on the Asian market expansion timeline? Her CFO prompted. She blinked, forcing herself back to the present. The timeline is too aggressive. We need more market research before committing those resources. The meeting continued, but Alexandra found herself checking her phone more frequently than usual. She'd texted Mark that morning, suggesting dinner on Friday. He hadn't responded yet. Is everything all right? Her executive assistant, Vivian, asked as the meeting concluded and the executives filed out. You seemed distracted. Alexandra considered deflecting the question but opted for honesty. Vivian had been with her for 8 years and was the closest thing she had to a friend. I met someone. Unexpectedly. Vivian's eyebrows shot up. A man? It's not like that, Alexandra said quickly. He has a daughter. I offered them a ride during the storm on Friday. We had hot chocolate afterward. Hot chocolate, Vivian repeated, clearly trying to reconcile this image with her boss, who typically subsisted on black coffee and protein bars during work hours. It was nice, Alexandra admitted. Different. Vivian studied her thoughtfully. Different can be good. Alexandra's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced down to see Mark's name on the screen. Friday works for us. Emma is already planning what to wear. Where should we meet you? Alexandra felt a smile spread across her face. Yes, she said to Vivian. I think different might be very good indeed. Across town, Mark was attempting to corral his third-period English class into a discussion of The Great Gatsby when his phone vibrated in his pocket. He waited until the students were engaged in small group work before checking it. I'll send a car for you both at 6:30. Casual dress is fine. Emma might enjoy the aquarium restaurant downtown, they have tables next to the tanks. Unless she has other preferences?